Steve Cunningham has announced that he intends to move back down to Cruiserweight. Now, I know there are going to be a lot of people that are concerned about him moving back down to Cruiserweight. I am not one of those people. Steve Cunningham, for a lot of his heavyweight fights, has been fighting just a couple pounds north of the Cruiserweight limit. He's been fighting 203 pounds, 202, 205. So there's absolutely no way that this guy's going to have any problem getting back down to Cruiserweight. He's been fighting at a Cruiserweight in heavyweight fights, as a Cruiserweight in heavyweight fights. So there's no problem with being weight drained or weakening himself to get down. None of that is going to be an issue for Steve Cunningham. If he ends up losing or getting knocked out at Cruiserweight, it won't be anything to do with the weight. I can tell you that. Because when he's fighting at Cruiserweight, he'll be the exact same size as he's been fighting at heavyweight for his last few fights. Same weight. You know, and Steve Cunningham, not only is Steve Cunningham a cruiserweight, he's a small cruiserweight. Think about it. This guy was fighting at heavyweight and he's weighing in 205 pounds. Most of the cruiserweights, people like Marco Huck, and I'm sure other people like Blavatsky and these other guys, they're not 205 pounds when they get in the ring to fight at cruiserweight. They're probably like 210, 215. These are big guys. The guy that Oval McKenzie just fought, I can't remember the guy's name. There's no way that guy's 205 pounds when he gets in the ring, I'll tell you that. That guy's at least 215, 210. They're proper size cruiserweight. Steve Cunningham is a small cruiserweight. And as I've said multiple times already, most of his heavyweight fights, he's just been fighting just a couple pounds north of the cruiserweight limit. So he will not have to dehydrate himself to start fighting at cruiserweight again. He won't be like Eddie Chambers, because Chambers was walking around 220, 225 and stuff like that. So when he came down to cruiserweight, it was a lot of weight he had to lose. When Chris Bird, I know Dwyer likes to bring up the Chris Bird example. When Chris Bird dropped down from heavyweight, he didn't just go to cruiserweight. He went to light heavyweight. He was fighting at heavyweight around 225, 230. And he dropped all the way down to light heavyweight. That's 175. So he dropped like 50 pounds. If you drop 50 pounds at any age, I don't care if you're, 25, never mind 35 or whatever he was. If you drop that amount of weight, and a lot of it was muscle, because Chris Bird weren't exactly fat as a heavyweight. He weren't ripped, but he definitely weren't a fat heavyweight. And you drop 25 pounds and a lot of it is muscle, you're going to be weak as hell when you've been walking around with that, 50 pound. You drop the 50 pound, you're going to be weak as hell when you've been walking around with that extra 50 pounds for the majority of your career, 10 years plus. So those situations are totally different than what Steve Cunningham is about to do. He's basically just going to fight at the exact same weight he's been fighting the past few years. Just maybe lose 3-4 pounds the day before the fight in water weight and just put it on after the weigh-in. No problem. Won't be an issue for him. As I say, if he loses at cruiserweight, it will be because he got beat by a better fighter. It won't have nothing to do with weight drain. Yeah? So in terms of, is it the right decision for him? Well, he's quite disillusioned at heavyweight because he's had quite a few decisions go against him. He had the Adamek decision go against him. He felt that was a robbery. That was a close fight though, but I can see him feeling hard done by. He had the, what's that guy? Glazkov decision go against him. He wasn't happy about that. The Tyson Fury fight was controversial the way it ended to a lot of people and certainly to Steve Cunningham. So I guess he's felt like he hasn't had a fair shake at heavyweight. Maybe he feels like he can go back down to cruiserweight and get some things done. How do you think Steve Cunningham would match up against Blavatsky, for example, the guy that just beat Marco Huck? If I'm pronouncing his name wrong, please don't butcher me. All right, I don't speak Polish, so how do you think he would do against him? Or some of the other guys at cruiserweight? Do you think it's a good idea for him to move back down? Do you think he can be successful? Do you think he's better off staying at heavyweight? If you think Steve Cunningham is better off staying at heavyweight, explain why. Because I can't see him beating any of the heavyweight champions. even if he got a fight, for example, with the winner of Ruslan Chagayev and Lucas Brown, Fraser Kendall. Well, Fraser Kendall looks like he's out of the picture now, but let's say he got the winner of Lucas Brown against Chagayev. Even if he deserved to win against one of those guys, he's going to be fighting in those guys' backyard. If Lucas Brown beats Chagayev, his next fight's going to be in Australia, defending his title. You think he's going to get a decision against Lucas Brown, the first ever Australian heavyweight champion, in Lucas Brown's backyard? You think he's going to get a decision against Ruslan Chagayev, fighting in Chagayev's backyard? Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And he definitely ain't beating no Klitschko. Some people might think he has a chance against Wilder. Possibly, but is he going to knock Wilder out? I don't think so. So that's going to go to a decision. Is Uncle Al going to... Well, actually, he's signed to Uncle Al now, ain't he? Yeah, I forgot he signed to Uncle Al. Would he get a decision over Wilder? I don't think so. Even if he is signed to Uncle Al, I don't think he'd get that decision. All the money is with Wilder. He's the young guy. So I think that Cunningham's got nowhere to go at heavyweight now. So I think there's no other choice for him than to drop back down to cruiserweight. In fact, I wish David Haye would drop back down to cruiserweight. It will be a bit more difficult for Haye to drop to cruiserweight than Cunningham, even though Haye is not a natural heavyweight. Despite all the BS that he was talking earlier on in his career, he's not a natural heavyweight. He pretty much admitted it after the Klitschko fight. Him and Adam Booth, after years of claiming that Haye was a natural heavyweight, as soon as he got beat by Klitschko, Adam Booth was like, well, Haye's a natural cruiserweight. He's not a natural heavyweight. I knew that all along. I definitely didn't buy into the hype. So Haye is a natural cruiserweight. When he lays off the weightlifting, because Haye does a lot of weightlifting, when he lays off the weightlifting, he could easily be under 200 pounds. But because he does so much weightlifting, he bulks himself up to 210, 215. But if he just relaxes a bit on the weightlifting, he could definitely get under 200 pounds easily without water, draining any water out of his body or anything like that. Would it weaken him in terms of his punching power and whatnot when his body's used to having all that muscle on it for so long? Possibly. But I don't know. I always felt that David Haye, just as a selfish boxing fan, I always felt that I'd like to see David Haye back down at cruiserweight. And he could have that matchup, which he missed, with Steve Cunningham. Because David Haye likes to call himself the undisputed cruiserweight champion. He was never undisputed champion. Steve Cunningham was champion at the time. He was unified champion, David Haye, but he was never undisputed, despite the fact he always seems to claim that he was. So maybe he can drop back down to cruiserweight if he wants to come back, and him and Steve Cunningham have a showdown. Or they could have it at heavyweight. Both of them come in 205 pounds or whatever their walking around weight is when they're in shape. 2.5, 2.7. Him and Cunningham go at it. Who would you pick in that fight? Yeah. Leave me some comments, people. Let me know what you think about everything I talked about in this video. Be interested to hear from you guys. It's Hatman, I'm out.